there's one musician without whose work my life would be significantly different, it's got to be Steve Earle. His first record, Guitar Town from 1986, has been literally a part of my life since my life has existed. There's not a time that I remember are not listening to that record as a family. Also, the Essential Steve Earle, which is a compilation album from a few years later, taking tracks from his first 3 records. Both really big in my early life. And then later, when I was in high school, with the release of Jerusalem and The Revolution Starts Now, his 2 big political records, his work started to influence the way that I saw myself and the world and my place in it, really influenced my politics in a big way. But previous to Jerusalem, he released Transcendental Blues, which is the album from which All of My Life comes from. Maybe it's not the best Steve Earle album, but I'd argue it's the most Steve Earle album. He abandons the entire notion of credibility on this record. This is a man who is from Texas, lived in Nashville. He made very Nashville-sounding records sometimes. He made very Springsteen-influenced populist stuff early in his career. He had made an album with the Del McCoury Band that's a very straightforward bluegrass kind of thing. He had done everything that a white Texan, should be able to do in Nashville. But he likes more music than just that. He always has. And on Transcendental Blues, it's the first time that you really see strong Beatles influence. He's said that the Beatles were his biggest influence in becoming a songwriter, that they were the first songwriting credits he'd ever noticed. And it dawned on him, hey, people write songs. I could be a person who writes songs. And so on the title track and some others, Everyone's in Love with You, there's a lot of Beatles influence on this record. And he stops caring, if that's credible for a white Texan living in Nashville to make music that sounds like the Beatles. He just does it. And the arrangements on the record are interesting and different, and you get, Scots-Irish stuff that crops up again, like he had on Copperhead Road. There's some bluegrass stuff. There's some quiet, acoustic, sad bastard music. But then there's also All of My Life, which is just an amazing song. I love it so much. All of My Life shows the influence of Nirvana on his music. His son, Justin Townes Earle, had exposed him to Nirvana, and one of the outtakes from this record is a cover of Breed, which is really well done, and I really like it. And if you listen to Breed and All of My Life back to back, you can definitely see the influence that one had on the other. The other thing about All of My Life that takes cues from Nirvana is the lyrical content. It's written very different stylistically from Nirvana, but it addresses a lot of the same sort of mental illness stuff that crops up in, Lithium, or what's the one with my wings and the glue? Happy. It's about mental illness, but not in the really sensational, terrifying way that a lot of Nirvana's music is. It's a little bit more resigned, and it's a little slyer, and it's wonderful. I love it so much, and I don't know if my impression of the main verses is the same as most people's, because the thing is, there's a punchline in the bridge that just floors me and always has. It's in the bridge, having described all this mental illness stuff, all these weird ideation things throughout the verses, he says in the bridge, somebody somewhere said love is a prison and no one really wants to be free. I'd have to be crazy to ever think someone could love nobody like me. And it's just beautiful. I love it. He's been describing essentially being crazy, and then he says, I'd have to be crazy to think someone could love somebody like me. And clearly he does, because clearly he's crazy. And like that is wonderful. That influences my writing. Stuff like Mort Dulac wouldn't exist without that. And I just love it so much. Ann Patchett has said in her memoir, "This is what a happy marriage looks like," that essentially each person has a story to tell, and then we tell like different iterations of that story, but like the core of it is all just one story that we have to tell. And if that's true, my story is Don Quixote. It's trying to understand like the interplay of mental illness and like happiness and positivity and willingness to change the world into the image of something better. And all of my life is quixotic as hell. Like, it's so wonderful, especially if you notice that punchline in the bridge. First autobiographical mixtape video, and it's over now. You should go listen to All of My Life. I will be back with more autobiographical mixtape videos and other stuff, I guess. And I will see you later.